Welcome to Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On with Janice Formichella. I'm Janice Formichella, a breakup coach passionate about supporting others to learn from their breakups, overcome loneliness, love being single, and see the end of a relationship as the beginning of a magical, sexy new chapter in life. I am here each week to share with you the tools that I have learned through my own painful breakups, through hitting rock bottom more than once, and through working with people all around the world to heal their broken hearts. If you are looking for hope and strength to move on from your breakup and resources to enjoy your new life, you are in the right place, and I've got your back. Hello to all my amazing, reflective, intentional, and beautiful listeners out there. Today, I am doing another double drop, meaning that I am dropping an episode on both of my podcasts. That is Sex and the Solo Girl and Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On. Ooh, and by the way, if you're following one and not the other, please go over and show me some love by clicking follow on the other. Today, I'm talking about dismissive avoidant attachment, and I am dropping it on both of the feeds because I happen to know that both of my audiences are interested in the topic because they are self-reflective and dedicated to personal development and interested in relationships and all of the great things. And today, I am setting the record straight about dismissive avoidant attachment tendencies with colleague Ashley Kaylor. She is a professional matchmaker and, get this, certified attachment coach. How cool is that? She teaches that when you understand your attachment style, learn to regulate your nervous system, and begin healing the deeper patterns driving your relationships, you stop chasing what isn't right for you and start creating the kind of connections that are. Please go over to her website, ashleykaylor.com, and book a free consultation or learn about her signature program, Attached and Aligned. It guides people to build lasting, healthy relationships, beginning with the one they have with themselves. How perfect is that? That is because Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On and Sex and the Solo Girl are about doing things differently in relationships with yourself and others. I really enjoyed this chat. I hope that you will too. And with that, on to all about avoidant attachment. Avoidant attachment, or should we say avoidance? That's what everyone wants to avoid in dating, right? Coming up with these mean people who are avoidant and going to leave you high and dry. That is what we are going to be dispelling maybe today or talking about today. And I am so glad that I made a new friend and colleague, Ashley. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh my God, my pleasure. So we had a little networking call a few weeks ago. And part of the reason I reached out to you in the first place is that it said on your LinkedIn that you do attachment coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to network with more people doing that. And then I discovered really quickly that you kind of have an interest in avoidant attachment and speaking about that. And we both want to dispel some myths. And so, yeah, let's talk about it today. Before we get started, I just want people to know Ashley does attachment coaching, and so do I. I have a program called Becoming Securely Attached. You can learn all about it in the show notes. I'm really revved up about it. A lot of people come to me, obviously after breakups, and really want to work on their attachment and showing up different in relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd love to work with you on that. And Ashley, maybe in a nutshell, what, is the core of your attachment coaching?
So, yes, I work with men and women. So I have a program as well. I do individual coaching. Going to be doing group and online coaching. My program is called Attached and Align, and just the sole purpose of it is to like yourself is to get my clients back to the secure attachment, right? So we all vary on the 4 different attachment styles, and it's not necessarily romantic, which everybody does. They come to you and I for those personal relationships, but attachment styles, they bleed into our family and friends. They bleed into the workspace. So whatever it is that my clients do need, getting just a better understanding of the attachment styles, how to communicate boundaries, and getting back to that secure place.
And as we're going to talk about your attachment tendencies, as I like to call them, I use a style because that's what people are familiar with and that's how people find me. But attachment tendencies are not encoded on you. They're not set in stone. Nobody is an anxiously attached. No one is an avoidant. These are things that we learn over time for various reasons, and we can unlearn them as well.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly.
And so what is your intention for the episode, Ashley?
I think you actually said it right in the beginning, which I love. I think my intention for this episode is to kind of dispel, to kind of demystify the dismissive avoidant. There's so many misconceptions out there. So many people come to myself and to you, whether they are a DA, they feel that they are a DA, they're dating a DA.
DA meaning?
Oh, I'm sorry, dismissive avoidant. Yes. Sometimes it could be tangled, when you're trying to say.
Well, yes. And for those of us in the space, we have our own little language, but yes.
But yeah, get a better understanding without shaming it, and to debunk all of the myths that they have out there with DAs that they don't know how to love, they're ghosting, they're narcissists, whatever it may be.
Mean-spirited.
Yeah, there's just so many misconceptions about DAs, and that they, the reason why they act the way they act is because of a learned behavior and because of patterns. But like you said before, all of this can be fixed, repatterned, through self-awareness and practice. And I think that's, the big intention is just to kind of demystify and get a little more clarity around the subject.
Mine's, quite similar. It really hurts my heart in so much social media where people with these tendencies are demonized, and people on their dating profiles say no avoidance.
Really?
And, yes. Yep. Definitely. I have heard that quite a bit, and that people with these tendencies are seen as being mean or not wanting relationships. And yes, I have had avoidant tendencies, and I wouldn't say anymore. I'm pretty classically secure, but it's most of all because these are people, and having maybe a fear of intimacy or just different ways of handling things does not make them a bad person. So let's just start with the basics.
Sure.
People with these habits, behaviors, tendencies are not necessarily people who are out there to get you and leave you high and dry. Let's actually talk about some of the characteristics. I have a little list that I put together. Should I go through and let's just chat about it?
Absolutely. I loved your list. I think that it was very well thought out and right on. Yeah, spot on.
Cool. So first of all, downplaying personal struggles, keeping things to themselves, maybe self-soothing, handling things that way.
Right. A lot of DAs do that. A lot of them will not engage in that conflict for fear of being seen and being abandoned, maybe maybe in an argument, voicing their opinion, and maybe being a little bit of intense that could shadow into them feeling they're insecure, they're going to their core wounds of feeling defective, I'm not enough, and then pulling back that way.
Yes, perhaps wanting space, so to speak, in conflicts, which some people might see as avoiding, where it's not. You are self-soothing, which I really want to talk about.
Yes.
And maybe some people see that as kind of pushing people away, but it's just a different way of handling things.
Yeah, it's a way of loving.
For me, I'm straight down the middle. Sometimes with my partner, I ask for space to gather my thoughts and calm down. I mean, I think it's actually can be a really healthy way to handle things. And then other times I am definitely like, we need to talk now. But if things get, I guess, a little intense, or if I feel anger, I will almost always ask him for space or time to cool down, or maybe just let's talk later type of thing.
And that is very clearly someone who resembles being secure, right? They know how to communicate their needs. They know how to communicate their boundaries. But with a DA, on the other hand, that close feels unsafe because they weren't learned that behavior, and that response wasn't learned when they were children. So they carry that into adulthood. So that's where you see the ghosting. And yes, they do that, but it's certainly, not purposeful. It's just for their safety, their nervous system regulation, like you said, just to calm down, like give me a moment, let me kind of recalibrate and get back to you.
Something else that I really wanted to say, and I can, I guess, relate to this, but in a secure way. Some people who are avoidant may really crave independence.
Yes,
rather than companionship.
100%.
Whereas a lot of more anxious people, they really, really feel better inside of certain types of relationships.
So that's probably the biggest. That's probably the biggest characteristic of a DEA is that being hypervigilant, being independent, not being vulnerable, practical, things like that. Because better they were as a child they were learned that behavior of, hey, I'm not getting my needs met, something's not totally stable, it's just better off that I figure it out myself, right? It's kind of, I could figure it out, I could self-soothe. So that sense of independence is something that they value themselves.
And I will say, as someone who kind of might lean this way, I am so sensitive to what I might perceive as clinginess, or maybe someone who's a little overbearing. If I'm seeing someone who exhibits any of that, and again, what I perceive as it, boom, I can be completely repelled and even start being less attracted to someone almost instantly. Because I will think to myself, why are you so caught up in this relationship? Don't you have other things to do? If I go on a first date with someone and like the next day they're texting me good morning, I am automatically like, no, you don't. You have other things to do in the morning.
Exactly. And that happens because it's the space that they need, right? It's like if you depend on them way too much, or if you're kind of their sole purpose, they can't breathe. That's their biggest fear, entrapment, engulfment, not being. Because the thing is when they are confronted with all of that emotion, all that vulnerability, they feel that they have to come, they have to rise up. They have to rise up to cater to you. They have to rise up to be the person that you want them to be. And the fact of the matter is they don't really know how to do that because they don't know how to communicate their needs, and they don't really understand what it feels like to feel that healthy, consistent love. And it tends to be the opposite with anxious, right? So an anxious person is like, he didn't text me back, and I just want to get this conflict figured out, right? Like I just need some type of resolution. But on the other hand, we have the dismissive who's like, okay, let's just, let's take a breather.
So I'm glad you're mentioning this, because avoidance being demonized, we see all the time. A lot more people are willing to identify as having anxious tendencies for various reasons. We see that a lot. People out there saying, I'm this way, so that's why I'm avoiding avoidance. And it's not necessarily that one is better than the other. I just think merely for whatever reason that instead of self-soothing in a relationship, someone who exhibits anxious tendencies will really wants things solved immediately. and want the
Immediately.
reassurance. And so, yes, when an avoidant person instead needs space and wants to at least figure out things on their own, that can seem that maybe they are being disrespectful of you because they're not answering you, or they're not responding to things the same way that an anxious person would.
Yes. They almost kind of speak different languages, if you will. And I think that that's really important to understand if you carry tendencies of, a lot of people, and just if I pause on that for a second, you said in the beginning, right when we started, that, you're not you're not a DA, you carry these tendencies. A lot of people can carry a sprinkling of, I have anxious tendencies. It's like, hey, I kind of tend to withdraw when things get a little intense. You can be like a little splattering of everything. So, but yeah, in that case, it's the language. It's the way that they communicate. So if an anxious wants the resolve right away because that's the reinsurance and that's where they feel safe, and the DA needs that space to recalibrate, to calm their nervous system, to have that clarity. If the DA is less likely to kind of learn the ins and outs of their attachment and how to communicate, just because that causes them to be vulnerable and to dig deep, and it's just not that comfort zone for them. But if you have someone like the anxious who's maybe better equipped to understand the attachment style, they can almost circumvent the situation and learn how to communicate whilst teaching the DA, if that makes sense.
But let's also be clear, just as someone who might want to have space, as far as anxious attached tendencies go, needing the reassurance right in the moment, that's something that you would, I hope, want to kind of work through, just like someone with avoidant tendencies may want to look at it and try and show up differently. I would hope that you don't get really set as someone who might be anxious in just saying, this is just how I am, I need this.
Right.
Because you can, learn to be patient and comfort yourself.
Yeah, you can definitely, it's that willingness, like you said, it's that willingness. There are different levels of everything that we're talking about. Yeah, I think it takes a lot of reflection. I think attachment theory, if I were to say, like, what kind of work do you do? It's a lot of reflection. It's a lot of deep work, because you have to recognize why you do the things that you do, right? Why you behave the way you behave when there's a lot of closeness, why you behave the way you behave when somebody pushes away. So by understanding that, it kind of opens the door to just a new layer of relationships, personal, romantic, work. I don't know. For me, attachment theory and learning about attachment styles is just really escalated or elevated, my business, and also personally, in just such a beautiful way. It's given me kind of tools that I didn't know that I needed. Didn't know that I would benefit from. I'm just wildly passionate about it, I guess, if you will.
Yes, and I'm constantly trying to tell people, this is what secure looks like. This is how you can get there. We're going to give some tips for people who might think that, or people who feel that they have avoidant tendencies. I was going to say, if you're not really sure, there are all these quizzes out there. I think that there's a little... take the quiz if you're curious, but just don't really cling to it too much and own it.
Don't box yourself in.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. Thank you. Is there anything more that you wanted to say about the neuroscience of any attachment style?
Yeah. So I think it's important to understand that attachment styles in general, whether we're talking about anxious or DAs or fearfuls, it's not a choice, it's a pattern. Okay. And that pattern is developed when you're young, right? Through the childhood years. And it's developed between the ages of 0 to 2 and fine-tuned around between the ages of 5 and 7. Okay. And basically, when you're that young, right? It's kind of the example of When they say to teach a child a new language when they're young, because they're like a sponge and they take in all of this information. So when you are at the early childhood years, what you do is you start to learn what safety feels like and what love feels like by subconsciously asking, like, what do I do to get mommy and daddy's attention? What makes them pull away? So with these questions that these children are making, what they're doing is developing patterns about what love really feels like. And all of these patterns and all of these thoughts get stored into your subconscious. So that patterning carries throughout into your adult relationships. And it's not necessarily something that we have a choice on. It's just something that is ingrained into our neural pathways.
Perhaps like any personality traits. I didn't set out to be an extrovert. I just kind of am this way. I like this. And we've talked about what happens in childhood. I wanted to talk a little bit about adulthood also, but more, I don't know, our personal histories with this. So it's been so hard for me to tie down how my childhood necessarily reflected how I turned out, except I was anxious. I'm divorced, and I was pretty classically anxious. And I think partially that was because my parents had a very enmeshed relationship and they stayed in touch constantly. My mom would call my dad at work multiple times a day. My dad would also, I don't even know what they were talking about. And I noticed, I'm estranged from my family now, but when I wasn't, I would maybe go and visit them, and just like constant texting, like we're talking.
Right.
And then something that impacted me to also be anxious, when I was a teenager, I had an on again, off again boyfriend. I couldn't believe that we were together. Like, I had a crush on him for ages.
When you look back, you're like, what was going on?
But yeah, because we went on and off. And when we would go off, I can't even believe, looking back, his behavior, we would be just perfectly talking all the time, totally in love. And he would just disappear. I mean, not telling me. I just would stop hearing from him, and it made me sick. And then he would then get back in touch with me, kind of try to explain it. And then I mean, one day, after breaking my heart and me just sitting around, like, where did he go?
What happened? Yeah,
it was the worst feeling. Like, then one day he gets to my house, I'm like 16, and he like brings me flowers and one of those like personalized cards, saying I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I sat back and I read through all our letters, because we'd write letters all the time. And I took him back. And then he did it, I think, again 2 more times. Okay. And so obviously I would get super anxious that maybe that would happen again or something.
Yeah.
And so in my marriage, I was just crazy. I was so jealous and just, so cringy. Then, and I did want to touch on this because things can kind of happen in adulthood. So we got divorced, and then maybe a year and a half later, I met somebody who turned out to be actually a diagnosed narcissist and an alcoholic. Yeah. And very abusive, even physically. And so after going through that, I switched instantly to being highly avoidant. And I still dated, like I still wanted intimacy, sex, fun. Yeah, fun was really what I was after.
That commitment, right? You had your shield up, and any of that vulnerability, it's like, well, I'm not going to go down that road again.
Yeah, because still dated and wanted to, but as soon as it would get any type of either serious or someone would want to have it deep and meaningful with me, or like even invite me to meet their family, I was just like, this is so lame.
Right,
and
right.
just, I'm not even attracted to you anymore. And so I became a little avoidant. Well, maybe a lot.
It's not something that's like set in stone without a doubt. It's just, it starts there. But like you said, I mean, different experiences, different traumas, your environment, things do change, but you start with this in early childhood. But as you said, I mean, you've certainly, you've had a divorce, you met a new people. So, our attachment style is our way of feeling safe and our way of, communicating. So putting your shield up and not wanting to get close, that makes sense because, your high school boyfriend, anxious, you'd probably love bomb you. And then what you do for an anxious
person, exactly. He would write me letters every day after we'd get back together. Yeah.
Right. And what's very curious and it's kind of hard to understand is that anxious people, and I have anxious tendencies myself, is they confuse chaos with connection. That over passionate, that like really dramatic I'm sorry's, the flowers, this and this, like I can't live without you, that overwhelming emotion is exactly, it's like, oh my God, well, thank God, because you're anxious and this is just like that. Okay, well, that soothes me. That's where I find my reassurance. That's where I feel safe again. And
maybe seeing that as doing the work in a relationship. Is there anything in the chaos is the work, which relationships involve work, but I really think they don't involve hard work all the time.
Oh, no, and I agree with you on that. I do think that relationships are a job because you do need to put effort in yourself and then effort in your partner. But if you're at a point where there's just no consistency and all you're doing is working and the other person is just kicked back, and reaping your love and your benefits, then we have a different situation. Then we have a different problems. Then the communication is not there. There's no boundaries. No one knows each other's needs. And that's just a recipe for disaster. You're just kind of, butting heads after a while.
I like to call it watering my relationship. Yes, and yes, that's what I consider the effort. Is there anything that you would want to share about maybe what you think was the core of some of your anxious tendencies, or just maybe your attachment style in general? Can you pinpoint it?
Oh, for sure. I anxious without a doubt. I would say probably kind of similar to that example that I gave is that needing that reassurance, needing that everything's going to be okay, feeling that, if I didn't get that text back, or if it took a little longer, that I would be replaced, that I wouldn't be good enough, that I would be abandoned. And then, that's where that spiraling happens, right? But then as soon as I get that text message, all of those feelings get suppressed and, and I'm back to happy Ashley. So my anxiety just kind of floated with me. I lived many relationships. It wasn't just one. So I think it was just my career in dating for giving my other partner the responsibility of soothing me. So I very much had, like an ebb and flow. It's like Ashley feels anxious. John over here, his job is to text me back immediately, make me think that everything's okay. And then I'll feel better. So I never actually healed anything. I just kind of kept on going with it because that chaos felt like connection. And a lot of anxious people, they chase that, like that dopamine hit, that cortisol hit of the intensity of the relationships. And that's also a big reason of why anxious attachments date narcissists, because they have that.
Okay, let's talk.
But I don't want to.
Well, no, actually, this is, I think, an important point, because one of the things I see on social media is just completely equating the two, meaning narcissists and quote avoidance. I mean, it's not shocking, I guess, but this is what I see. So I'll actually turn it over to you. What are the differences? Why do people do this?
Right.
And also maybe just set the record straight. Also, I want to say, being an actual narcissist, everyone, this is actually pretty rare. It's not a common, really as common as people make it out to be. This is what some people might call, I don't know, a disorder, maybe a personality disorder. And it is, like I said, it's not as common as you think. You may have only known either 0 or 1 in your life is how rare it is. So
right.
I'll turn it over to you, please. Like I said, set the record straight about this.
Yeah. And I think it's almost, I kind of feel bad, to be very honest with you, because they're just categorized and they're just lumped together. But like, as you said, a narcissist is, it's very common, first and foremost, it's very common for them to be lumped together because they do tend to come across with the same coping mechanisms and characteristics. And what I mean by that is avoidants are usually emotionally distant and sometimes hard to read. A narcissist, the difference there is narcissists tend to lack true empathy. And that's
yes, you will be shocked if you actually meet one. I mean, it was like I said, it was absolutely shocking how self-absorbed and outright mean this man was, and in love with himself to the point that sometimes it was laughable.
Right. Mm-hmm. When, like, let's just say that there's a conflict, right? So a dismissive, the way let's just pretend that there is a conflict. A DA will leave, right? But a narcissist will also leave. So that's why people are associating them or categorizing them as narcissists. But they do it for 2 different reasons.
Okay.
So a DA will leave to self-regulate, to calm down, protect themselves. So a narcissist, on the other hand, will ghost for a different reason. So the narcissist will ghost to manipulate you. And that's definitely the difference right there, is the intention. The DA will create that distance for safety, and the narcissist will create that distance to manipulate and to control. I was just going to say the manipulation.
Yes. And this is also what, so quote unquote, not even quote unquote, love bombing is something that you will tend to see a narcissist do, because like I said, it's about the manipulation. Someone with avoidant tendencies is not really going to seek to love bomb you in the beginning of a relationship.
That is,
maybe they found the opposite, but that's not right.
But that's a very, very good point, because that's also where they kind of have like a little bit of overlap.
Okay.
You said, like, the narcissist will love bomb you, but again, that love bombing you is to make you depend on them, right? Is to, like, you to be like, oh my God, I'm on top of the world. Look at me. I'm a king. I'm a queen. He can't live without me. He's just like, suffocating you with his love. And who doesn't want that, right? But there's strings attached. With the DA, they can be very, very intense at first. And because DAs crave connection. And again, everything fluctuates. They could, maybe want a relationship in the beginning. Because they didn't get that when they were children. So that feeling of, being loved and feeling that secure, that's very enticing, and that's very attractive to them, so they might in turn, reflect that with their behavior. But it almost is like shooting yourself in the foot. So the DA is acting, full of love and emotion and caring, and let's go on dates and this, and this. And then you're like, oh my gosh, this feels wonderful. But then you get really close and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yeah. Yep. Having this like fear of certain types of intimacy doesn't mean that you don't want a relationship. Right. In fact, I can imagine for people who are really this way, I guess back when I was, you almost feel a sense of relief. Like, oh, wow, I'm connecting with someone. This feels really good. And then, when it becomes intense in any way, it's like, oh, this feels kind of icky.
Yeah, it feels risky. It feels unsafe, and suffocating. So they do. Yeah, they do. They do share same behaviors. That ghosting, if you will, but intentional and protection is the difference, right? And I think that's. I wish people would stop just splattering it all over social media, because it certainly isn't true. Because the DA, they probably crave connection more than any of the attachment styles that are out there.
That's a beautiful and quite apt point to make. I think that a lot of people listening will be those who feel like they have anxious tendencies and want to understand this more and maybe to be validated. So let's talk about let's talk about if you feel, if you do find yourself in a relationship with someone who exhibits avoidant behaviors. I am passionate about supporting people through the various stages of their breakup healing journey, and not only put it in their rearview mirror, but come out better the other side. And guess what? In order to give people the best look at what my coaching support can provide, I'm now offering free first sessions. During our time together, you will have the chance to tell me what you are experiencing, and we will then chat about how my programs will address your unique breakup circumstances. All you have to do is go over to janiceformichella.com and sign up for one on my coaching programs page. You can also get in touch with me on Instagram if you would like, but you can schedule one directly there. You'll get access to my calendar over at janiceformichella.com. I also have a lot of various resources on my website to help you heal your heart. Thank you for listening to the podcast and welcoming me to be part of your moving on journey. You are strong, and I would love to work with you more. Maybe let's talk about a couple ways to navigate it. And I'll just begin. I think something important for anyone who feels that they're anxious is to try and remind yourself that you are responsible, perhaps for your triggers. And then again, self-reflection, maybe asking yourself what exactly is causing you to feel insecure in the moment. Mm-hmm. Remind yourself that you are kind of responsible for your own triggers, and maybe ask yourself what exactly is making you feel insecure about the relationship.
100%. I think that should be like the top one, right? Is that self-reflection of like, why am I feeling this way? And what am I afraid that's going to happen in this circumstance, right? If he doesn't text back, what am I going to feel? What am I afraid that's going to happen, and what am I going to feel, and where am I going to feel it in my body? I think that is really good advice, because it's doing that deep reflection before you start shutting down. Because when you start to shut down, it's really, really hard to build back up. Beyond what you said, I believe that the first thing that I would say, if you're with someone who is a DA or you're a DA yourself, would be to give him or her space, give them space.
Don't push.
Don't push.
This is something, yes, that I see some anxious people doing is, getting, maybe kind of demanding about the interactions, really pushing. And I mean, that can be very unattractive and perhaps repellent to someone who's a bit avoidant. I mean, if you care about this person and want to perhaps grow together, I would definitely say try really hard not to fall into that. And look, it is hard for someone who considers themselves anxious. It really feels like your anxiety is out of your control. And I get that. It's kind of like maybe anger when it really builds up, but really try.
Yeah, because they're going to do the opposite. You push, they're going to pull farther away. So
yes.
space. But when you're giving that space, I think it's very important to know, and we'll just use anxious for example's sake, is that when, or if and when they do pull away, you have to realize that it's them regulating, it's them calming themselves. It's not a rejection. Because an anxious mind is like, okay, well, there it goes again. There she goes again. They're leaving me. So it's not a rejection. It's just how they know how to cope and how they need to regulate. So that, I think, is wildly important, because then you can kind of, step into being able to speak when the time is ready. But leading into number 2, one of the most difficult things for like someone who's anxious partnering with a DA is the communication, right? So they tend to be like, you're not listening. You did this and you did this. So it's a lot of emotion.
You're being disrespectful.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yes. You didn't hear anything that I said. You didn't pick up the kids, whatever the situation it is.
Pick up the kids.
Yeah, whatever the situation might be.
Shame on any person avoidant who doesn't pick up their children.
Right. So it's a lot of escalation. It's a lot of blaming, and it's a lot of emotion. So I always recommend to clients that the word you accusation, leave it behind. You could still talk about your feelings, but that might look like, hey, I felt disconnected the other day when we had that heated conversation about money, but I do really want to talk when you're ready. So it's like, hey, let me express my feelings, but also let me, appreciate your space. So it's that calm communication and the clarity that's very, very important when you're working or partnering with a DA.
I have one, and this goes on both sides, is and this is definitely a sign of someone who's becoming or is secure, is coming up with agreements between the two of you. Perhaps when we argue, we will maybe just do one thing. If I'm feeling that I want to avoid something, this is what I will perhaps do to make you feel more secure. Different things like that you will come as a couple to an agreement about over time based on how you both respond to either. I guess it would really come down to conflict. Right.
I couldn't agree more. The agreement, the compromise, I think that's key, because, a DA will, if they're not, taught, quote unquote, they will see that as pressure. But if you phrase it and you position it as, it's like, okay, you want to know what? I'll give you a day or two, to do your thing. But, we do need to talk about this because this is important to me, whatever the situation it is. That compromise, that deal, to resolve that conflict, kind of de-escalate the situation, is wildly important, because they feel heard and you also feel heard as well, because you're communicating your needs when respecting theirs.
Mm-hmm. An agreement that my partner and I have is if we're either having something intense happening, or maybe if I'm upset about something, that I won't leave him on red. If he, and I would say I'm not always perfect most of the time.
No one, no such thing.
Yes, true. But no, that is, something that he requested, I think, after one of our conflicts, like a year ago, that I not do that I at least, let him know what I'm going through, or let him know. And I mean, that's totally courteous, but we had to have a conversation that this was our agreement. And in fact, at one point we even wrote down a couple of these agreements.
I mean, that all sounds very, very healthy, and that very well could have seemed simple to you, but for whatever one reason or another, that didn't make him feel secure. I mean, I'm certainly not putting, words in his mouth, but for some reason he needed that, you know what I mean? And that's where that communication is. And you're just like, okay, so that's it. You just don't want me to leave you on red, but like that could just make a world of a difference. It could make a world of a difference. And now, I mean, it made such a difference that you remembered it, obviously, you respect it, and you're talking about it. And I'm sure it's made a difference, in your relationship.
Well, also just the ability to talk about these things and come to agreements helped us to be closer and more.
That's healthy communication. And it's difficult. It's difficult because we all come from different, upbringings. And, it's very, very rare that people carry the same type of attachment style, and to communicate and to blend, it's difficult. So that's, it does take work. We were talking about a job, but it does take work. It takes a lot of understanding, a lot of compromise, a lot of listening. But I mean, it's a beautiful thing when, you can figure out that, you can figure out the magic in it.
Yep. And you can both say, I want to become more secure with you. So to kind of more or less wrap things up, we talked about navigating a relationship with somebody who is DA, not a DA.
Yes.
But what if you are really being honest with yourself and perhaps pushed play because you feel avoidant? First of all, well done for pushing play, because like we've said over and over, these behaviors get demonized. And I'm sorry for that, for anyone listening who feels shame around this. And the fact that you're curious about this episode and want to learn about yourself, just, good job. And that's why I said, if you're honest about this, because that can probably be hard for someone who's like, oh, I don't want to be that. So maybe a few tips on how to overcome being avoidant.
Yeah. And I think that's really great the way you position that too, is that if you're listening and you are, have these characteristics or tendencies, it's not a flaw. It's not a flaw. I dabble between anxious and DA and different aspects of my life, whether it's personal, whether it's work, and people are like, oh, well, this is what you do. You're not secure. I'm like, no, not all the time. I still have things that I work on. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not perfect. It's some things trigger me, and that's it. But if I were to give suggestions to someone who's leaning towards dismissive avoidant, or any spiraling or before any shutting down, was kind of to piggyback off what you had mentioned before, is pause, reflect, and like, why am I feeling this way? What's going to happen if X, Y, and Z continues? Like, what am I afraid will happen? Because what this does is it kind of brings you back to center, right? Mm-hmm. Before your anxious tendencies, or before, if you're fearful avoidant, before all of these fears start spiraling and you're acting out of, anxiety or fear rather than clarity and just being more grounded in that secure position. Mm. So just that, take that time and pause. And it sounds so simple, but I can't stress enough that it's just a groundbreaker. Just to take a step back and be, have awareness be your first step, if you will.
Self-reflection. I love it. One tip I wanted to throw in, and then I'll give you back the floor, is, I was thinking that maybe learning to be open and sharing outside of a romantic relationship could get you more comfortable. Find a close friend who you just want to gab with, perhaps a counselor who you can really open up to, so that you just simply become more comfortable.
100%. The vulnerability with a DA is just one of their biggest fears. It's just something that they just run in the opposite direction. So practicing that with micro vulnerability, it doesn't have to be some catastrophic situation, but whether it's a friend or have you, entrusting in small doses. Like, Janice, I don't know what's going on. I just feel a bit off today. Mm-hmm. Something simple, just small doses, because what will happen is your nervous system and your subconscious will start to react and start to learn, like, hey, that wasn't that bad. Janice didn't agree. Janice listened. It's okay. Maybe it's about time. If I could do it with Janice today, maybe she'll listen tomorrow. Or maybe I could do it with my buddy during whatever it is. So that little micro vulnerability is also a good stepping stone, because jumping all in at once, especially if you're dating someone who's anxious, is jumping off the deep end. It's terrifying. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another thing, it goes again with the pulling away, is a lot of DAs isolate. So what they do is they pull away and they self-soothe, because that's what they've learned to do, is they learn to become self-reliant. And, if there's something going on, I could just figure it out myself. I'll just be hyper vigilant in that sense. So what I would suggest is try your best, again, in micro doses, is to not do that, not isolate, right? Kind of put yourself in more comfortable positions with friends, family, so you're not carrying all of these emotions, all of these confusing feelings, and suppressing them. Because these small steps and these small learned behaviors will gradually start to repattern those neural pathways in your subconscious, so everything starts to feel safe again. And that's the whole basis, is try to get to that secure sense of being.
Wow, I genuinely feel this is certainly one of my better episodes on attachment. I've done quite a bit. One of my goals with Sex and the Solo Girl, though, hello to all my breakups, broken hearts, and moving on listeners, because I'm dropping this on both 100%. But one of my goals with Sex and the Solo Girl was to really focus on secure attachment. And this has been brilliant. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. No, I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. One more time, give people your website, and then, we'll wrap for the day.
Wonderful. So my website is my first and last name, Ashley Kaylor, AshleyKaylor.com.
And my website is also my name, JaniceFormichella.com. So proud of it. And come and learn about both our coaching programs. I look forward to doing more content with you. And
I do as well. I feel like we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, cool. Let's make a list. Honestly, when I find someone I have good chemistry on the air with, I keep with it.
Love it.
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone who listened. And remember, you can overcome whatever insecure attachment you have. Yeah, it can be a lot of work. There's great resources out there. There's coaches out there. And there is just your willingness. Even the fact you pushed play today says something 100%. About your ability and willingness to learn. All right. I will see everyone soon. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On with Janice Formichella. I sincerely hope that you found today's episode inspirational or useful. I would love to support you on your healing journey. All you have to do is send me a message on Instagram at Janice Formichella, or check out my programs at JaniceFormichella.com, and I will get you started. Remember, if you are struggling with a broken heart, your feelings are temporary. I am sending you so much love and luck and strength for the week ahead. You've got this.